I used to rule the world, seas that rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone, sweep the streets I used to own. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listen as the crowd would sing. Now the old king's dead, long live the king. One minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered that my castle stand upon pillars of sand, pillars of sand. I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, once you've gone it was never an honest word. And that was when I ruled the world. It was a wicked and wild wind blew down the doors to let me in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I've become. Revolutionaries wait for my head on a silver plate, just a puppet on a lonely string. Oh, who would ever want to be king? I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter will call my name, never an honest word, but that was when I ruled the world. Hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name, never an honest word, but that was when I ruled the world.
Welcome. Welcome to Sunday. This is yeah, a little bit outside my regular wheelhouse, but it's gonna be something I'm starting up here. I'm gonna try to do every week. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I've been meaning to get back to this game for a while now. It's been a little while since I played it, so I want to try and experience it a little more because I really like this game, but it is kind of a long form thing. So welcome to Sunless Sunday. My name is Zara, and I am sexy, and I know it. Not that that has anything to do with Sunless Skies, but that's just the way it is. Um, yeah. So what is Sunless Skies? Well, first of all, I should probably get the game going. Get some background noise once it loads. There we go. So Sunless Skies is the technically third game created by Fail Better Games. Um, the first of which was a browser-based text RPG called Fallen London, which you can go play right now if you go to fallenlondon.com. That game, I never really got into it that much, but it's been around on the internet since like 2009, I think. So it's been out there for a while, and there's a lot of effort went into the lore and all kinds of stuff like that. The whole thing is basically the city of London was dragged underground by a enormous swarm of bats, and everything that takes place within Fallen London is basically this subterranean version of the city. Um, Back in 2015, Fail Better released Sunless Seas, which took place from Fallen London and kind of expanded out into the sea that surrounded it. Um, Lots more places to visit, more exploration to be done. I've played Sunless Seas, and I really like it in concept, but the actual game mechanics were kind of unforgiving to the point that it made it a little bit frustrating to play. So that's why I'm not playing Sunless Seas. Sunless Skies takes place about 10 years after Sunless Seas, in which case London has been raised into space somehow. So basically, Sunless Skies has a very similar gameplay to Sunless Seas, but it's refined a little bit better. But it's, instead of us being a ship captain flying around or floating around on the Untersee, as they call it, we are in a flying train traveling through space. I don't pretend how that works. I guess it would make sense if everything is like Victorian themed. It's alternate reality, Victorian era. So again, I don't pretend to know how that makes any sense, but that's the situation that we got here. And before I get into the game, first of all, I have to move my cat. One moment. Alright. Cat has been moved. So I did a little bit of self-promotion before this stream. It's actually been a while since I've streamed. It's been like more than a week. And since then, I've had a whole bunch of new followers. I am now 7 people away from getting that magical 50 number and becoming an affiliate. So I might be doing something special on Tuesday for that, but we'll see. So before I get into the game, I just did want to do a quick run through all of the new followers, whether people are watching or not. So thank you to the Italian gamer, Smith. Hang on, I'm gonna make this bigger. Smith J0615, Misbaked EB615, Luke's Lewis, Kenji Hirosame, Sumer. Thank you, all of you, very much. We're getting closer and closer every day. And actually, that's another thing. All of my alerts have been changed at this point. I've changed all of my follower alerts, all of my raid, subscription, everything. They should all be changed to brand new alerts that I've kind of customized, and they're all random, so I'm hoping that those will work properly once they come up. Until then, let's get a new game started. We are going to play a legacy campaign. A legacy campaign is, yes, if we die, which was probably going to happen, we will then start a new captain with some of the stuff that we got from the first captain. Each captain kind of builds on each other, and that's the way that you're kind of intended to play the game. So we'll be doing that. No aiming assist. Standard enemy projectile speed and supply consumption is standard. I really don't want to make this game any more difficult than it already is. Not that this game was terribly difficult. Sunless Seas was worse as far as that goes. This one I think is a little bit more forgiving in some respect, but Log of Her Majesty's Locomotive, the Orphean, March 14th, 1905. Our expedition to the domains of the dead has been eventful. The Orphean is damaged and in grievous need of repairs and supplies. We are returning in haste to the Reach, where I hope to make port at New Winchester. May God be with us, for 1,000 deaths waiting in the sky. Final entry of Captain Amelia Charity Whitlock, DCM, written shortly before her death. This is our hole in our inventory. We don't really need to worry about that so much. So this is our train. You return to the Reach, an untamed sunless span of the heavens. London's new frontier. Celestial garden run wild. Your journey back from the Blue Kingdoms was tumultuous. Your locomotive was damaged, and Captain Whitlock was badly wounded. As first officer, the crew looked to you. The nearest station is New Winchester. Can you get the Orphean there safely? Alright, so the Reach is one of 4 regions in this game that we will get to explore. It's widely kind of referred to as basically being space, but it's not really. The Reach in particular is like overgrown. It's almost like this, like space meets the Feywild, if that helps at all. Much to the relief of our stokers, you find a barrel of fuel among the enemies. A wreck drifts here, less fortunate even than you. We should scavenge her for repairs, a crewman suggests. So this is the wreck of the Ozymandias. The wreck hangs in the sky, pocked with recent gunfire. You and the boarding party don your sky suits, garments of waxed canvas lined with felt to protect against the cold of the sky. 2 of the crew are whispering as they dress. What business did Captain Whitlock have in our Blue Kingdom anyway? Why the devil did we trespass on the districts of the dead? You silence him. Now's not the time. Let's go. Leap across to the deck. Or to the wreck. To the deck of the wreck. You jump. Your stomach lurches with vertigo as the stars blaze above you and below. The air of the heavens is thin and torn by unpredictable winds. Then, your boots hit the running board of the Ozymandias, and your leather-gloved hands fumble for a hold. One of your companions throws you a line and you lash the 2 engines together. Only then do the rest of the boarding party follow. One of them forces open an exterior hatch and we clamber inside. Her interior is cold, unlit, and whistles with wind. Your party's lamps spread buttery light over the narrow, paneled passages. You make your way up towards the hold, stepping over bodies crumpled in the corridor. Unfortunately, the way is blocked. A bulkhead has been mangled inward by a well-aimed barrage. So there are several stats in the game. First of all, there's iron and veils, which, as the game explains, iron is the skill of confronting and overcoming, and veils is the skill of deceiving and evading. Let's go. Let's clear the obstruction. Iron, strength. As you strain against the stubborn steel, you remember an event from a year ago. A boiler explosion has trapped an engineer under a tangle of plating and pipework. The captain was first on the scene. You were second. Together you managed to pry the wreckage upwards enough for you to crawl beneath it, while the captain braced the bar across her back. By all means, take your time, she grunted as you dragged the engineer out. Back in the present, the twisted bulkhead yields. Your companions clear the exposed rubble away. The way is clear. We have reached the Ozymandias' hold, a ruin of smashed cargo and spilled supplies. Hopefully somewhere amidst the detritus you can find parts to repair the Orphean and restock your stores. Let's conduct a thorough search. Our actions on board may have compromised its integrity. Alright, so we find enough food and gear to restock our supplies and enough spare parts to make necessary repairs. The food will need to be thoroughly thawed, of course, but you've eaten worse in the skies. "Oh-ho!" cries one of your party, prying the lid off a long crate. It holds a cannon, still nestled in straw. Another crewman pulls a battered bird cage from a pile of ruined cargo. Within the cage, something winged and furred opens a sullen eye. You examine your finds. Everything is detritus like the entire world around you. It's not that bad. Once we get back to civilization, it'll be a little better. The Ozymandias emits a long, juddering creak. Juddering? There's a new word. Your boarding party exchanged nervous glances. From the chaos of its hold, you have retrieved repairs and supplies and discovered some useful equipment. A gun that could be mounted on your locomotive, and an educated bat. Alright, so let's mount this cannon. The Cotterell and Hathersage Jerusalem fires single shells to a good range, more or less accurately. You order 2 of your party to get it back to your vessel and fit it immediately. The Ozymandias groans again. The structure shudders spasmodically. Alright, so we have a weapon. Second of all, we have an educated bat. The bat treats its rescue as an inconvenience and immediately begins haggling over pay. You offer to put it back in its damn cage and leave it on the Ozymandias, at which point it becomes more polite. You doubt it will last. We have a diffident bat. Alright, so the ship is still kind of falling apart. We can press onto the engine room to hopefully find some more stuff, or we can just return to our own ship. But, go big or go home, right? Press on. The wreck screeches as its metal buckles and tears. You press on through the shuddering corridors, searching frantically for the engine room. So here are two of our other stats. There's hearts and mirrors. Hearts is the skill of convincing and enduring, and mirrors is the skill of investigating and deducing. Both of these are a 49% chance because technically we don't have stats yet. We haven't done our character building yet, so, or we just leave. See with special eyes, I agree. Go in. We'll go on alone and see if we can find anything. Oh. The engine room is gray. Excuse me. The engine room is gray and spilled with ash and littered with corpses. Little has survived the Ozymandias' ruin. You search fruitlessly for coal, but linger too long. As the wreck is racked with final violent tremors, you race back to the Orpheum. With a dying groan, the Ozymandias splits in two, sending shards of splintered plating spinning into the sky. Several of them bite into the Orpheum, mauling its hull. Stoking your engines, you steam away from the collapsing wreck. You are restocked at least, and rearmed. But we've lost 10 hull. Onwards. So, down here, our hull is the little life bar, the green. And then we also have supplies and fuel. Supplies constantly dwindle down, as they should, even if you're standing still. And fuel we use as we move. So let's get going. We can press F to send out our bat. It uses a small amount of supplies, but it has found something. So if we open up our chart, our bat has uncovered a new location over here. We don't know what it is. I guess we know it's a station of some sort, so that's probably where we're headed. So let's go. Aimed at bat for good job. I don't think I can. Summoned by Captain Whitlock. The walls of the captain's cabin are lined with a hodgepodge of curios from across the sky. Captain Whitlock lies in bed. Black marks cover her skin like a monstrous brand. When she coughs, coils of acrid smoke pour from her lungs. Inquire the captain's injuries. The locomotive's doctor attends her. His lips are tight. A word of living fire pursued the Orphean across the Blue Kingdom. It caught you just before you passed through the transit relay to the Reach. It set its brand upon the captain. It's burned itself right through her, the doctor whispers. When I closed the worst of her wounds, I could see the sign is seared into her bones and her organs. Judging from her symptoms, it's on the inside of her lungs, too. The captain leans to one side and vomits a plume of fire into a copper bowl. There's nothing the doctor can do. Approach the bedside. She opens her eyes as we draw near. Her mouth is blistered from the blue fires that dance on her tongue. Her hand grips your arm. Her skin is hot as a kettle. Made arrangements. The Orphean will be yours. Her voice is just a rasp of burned meat breath. But promise. She breaks off to scream a word in a language that was not made for human mouths. When she resumes speaking English, she's weaker. Her request a little more than a gasp. Promise me one last service. Promise. Alright, so we can promise that we will obey her last command. We can make no promise and tell her to rest. We can pull away from her like it's contagious. Or we can demand to know why she took the Orphean to the Blue Kingdom. Probably not a good time to ask, but, you know. I figure it's probably good. We'll promise that we'll see her last wish. She sinks back, relieved. All in my will, she gasps. Be a better... She breaks off at the sigils burned into her bones flare, glowing cherry red through her flesh and skin. Better captain than I. The effort exhausts her. She sinks back into the scorched pillows and a twisting, frantic fever. Take our leave. We have an engine to command. You leave the cabin and the scorched stink of its air behind and return to the bridge. New Winchester is further than you'd like, and the captain hasn't long left. Alright. So we'll use our gun to clear through this debris, but... no. A foe. Got a dogfight in a train. Yeah. So the bar on the bottom is the level of steam that we built up. If that fills up... If that fills up, then... wrong way. Then we need to let it cool down for a second before we can use our weapons or our dodge ability. So we defeated a Reach Marauder. We can either raid the remains. They often carry stolen valuables or strip it for repairs. Let's raid the remains. Ill-got gains. Your boarding party returns with wallets and watches, cufflinks, lockets, and keepsakes. You store them in the safe to be pawned when or if you make it back to port. So we got 28 sovereigns. Sovereigns are the currency of this world. I'm gonna just... everything is already pretty low, but I'm just gonna drop it a little bit. Onward. So as you discover locations like we did with Bancroft's Forum, it'll give you experience, and then you can gain levels and build up from there. March 18th, 1905. The taste of smog. The sound of iron on iron. We're home. Our crew crowds to the windows as we return to New Winchester. You coast into the bustle, the din, the soot, and the steam of Wolvesey. Oh, I have a lot of I'm having a lot of trouble pronouncing this. Wolvesey Station. It is clogged with other engines, scrappy mining locomotives from Lustrum Way, weathered explorers gleaming with frost, sleek company vessels with bright brass fittings. No sooner have you pulled into the sidings than a brusque station master bustles over. He requests to come aboard. I must speak with your captain, he insists, brandishing a ledger. The usual formalities. Look to the Orphean's doctor. He's just appeared over our shoulder. His face is solemn. His hat is in his hands. He lowers his eyes. The crew exchange bleak, wordless looks. The Orphean itself feels suddenly more empty. The station master looks confused. You inform him that unfortunately, Captain Whitlock has just passed. Ah, he says neutrally. Sorry to hear that. Very sad, very sad. He waits for what he considers to be an appropriate minute and a half before continuing. Alas, even amidst the tragedy of the cogs of bureaucracy must turn. If Captain Whitlock is deceased, the station authority require their answers from the first officer. He dons a set of spectacles and locates his pen. It will be relatively painless. Name, background, purpose of visit, etc. Shall we begin? And now we create our captain. So today, London lies between the stars. Her new empire unfolds across the heavens. But 10 years ago, before the Northern Gate was opened, before the renewed Empress led her people into the skies, it lay in a vast cavern far beneath the earth, deep, dark, marvelous. Who were you then? So we've got a choice of quite a few different jobs, quote unquote, that we were. Each one gives us a different stat bonus. There's only the 4 stats, so some of them have the same bonus, but it will then change things. It'll change other parts of the story later on, depending on who we were. So this is a fairly interesting choice. You need to be a street urchin, a soldier, a poet, an academic, a priest, a sailor. The Untersee was the name of the ocean that Fallen London was around when it sank into the underground. Sunless Sea takes place on the Untersee. So, a ministry auditor or revolutionary. What do you do with a drunken sailor? Indeed. A sailor, I mean, it only makes sense. I have played Sunless Sea, so it would make sense that we are, in fact, a sailor. We were a Z captain. You remember bats winging across still black sea, the distant lights of London calling you home, salty prayers offered to heedless gods. It was a hard life, and often a short one, but you made your mark. Now the question is, did we smuggle, explore, or did we buy and sell? Being a Z captain, we have a bonus to iron. So these are the other 4 stats that we will get a lesser bonus to, and it will also give us, if we smuggled, we get an affiliation with villainy. If we explored, we get an affiliate with academe. And if we bought and sold, we were a trader, then we are affiliated with Bohemia. I do kind of like the idea of being a smuggler. I don't really remember much of what I did in Sunless Sea because I died a lot. I remember trying to buy and sell stuff, but I didn't get all that far. Let's go dark path for now. I don't know if that necessarily means it's the dark path, but because yeah, we'll be a smuggler. But that's the thing about this game, is that there's a lot of different ways that stories can unfold. So just because you pick things in a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, that's what you're going to be, or that's kind of what's going to happen. It might just mean that other paths open up for us in a more interesting way. So this is basically our end game condition that we're picking here for this captain specifically. Either wealth, fame, or the truth. The truth is kind of the more complex ambition that requires a lot of different things. It is recommended that you probably play this as a lineage that has already completed one of the other ambitions. So we might hold off on the truth for now. The truth will come later. But for now, do we want wealth or do we want fame? Do we want a comfortable retirement, or do we want to be immortalized by our songs of the sky? Wealth as a smuggler. Makes sense. Alright, wealth it is. Alright, so now we create our portrait. So Fallen London and all of the Fail Better games kind of have this portrait system where you never really see your character's face, but you get this silhouette here. There's a whole bunch of different things you can change to kind of change up your character. I just kind of like going random until I find something that I like. And it's pretty neat. It's all fairly like gender neutral. Like a lot of the male options you can still choose for like the female looking avatars. There's no real distinction between male and female throughout any of these things, so you can just kind of make whatever. You can get some pretty interesting things. Ooh, that one's pretty good. I don't know what's going on with the hat, but I really like the beard and monocle. And McLennan. It's a pretty good name. I like that name. Term of address is basically what our title is, so we can go all kinds of different things in here. Administrator, intendant, comrade McLennan. I think, yeah. So if we were a Z captain in our past life, our earlier days, it would make sense that we would want people to call us captain. So Captain McLennan is a pretty good character to start with, I think. Very classy man with his monocle. Wonder if, ooh, there we go. Perfect. Although that's not really fitting of a captain. There we go. Captain McLennan. So these are our starting stats here. So we got 25 iron, 10 hearts, 10 mirrors, and 17 villainy. Seems like a pretty good place to start. This is basically just for this character, so once this character dies and we start a new one, we'll go through that whole process again. And we will start anew. The reading of the will. 3 weeks have passed. This morning, Captain Whitlock received a simple memorial service. Her body was consigned to a necropolis train bound for the Serene Mausoleum. Now you sit, with a handful of her relatives in the threadbare offices of her solicitors. A methodical notary is writing the will. The captain was wealthy once, but squandered her capital on mysterious expenses before her expedition to the Blue Kingdom. Listen to the end. The captain's relatives, for whom she was mostly estranged, are clearly wondering why we are here. Yeah, okay, provisioning. In a final codicil, the notary announces, Captain Whitlock confirmed that possession of the Orpheon was to pass to its first officer. He peers at you with dry, grey eyes. This includes a certain black box contained in the Orpheon's hold. Captain Whitlock's final request was that, at a time of your choosing, you transport said box to an address in London. He hands you an address card, and deposit it there. You are not to look inside. She gave no explanation. And that's it. You're captain now. The Orpheon is yours. So we've gained the Captain Whitlock's legacy. So we have a black box that we can take to London, or we can sell it and be done with it. And $100. Alright, so now things open up. We are pretty much free to do whatever we want. We are here in Wolvesey Station. We can explore the city, we can recruit the incautious driver. There's an opportunity here. Investigate the black box. Repair our locomotive, which is probably a good idea. Let's see, how much does this cost? 30 sovereigns. We only need to repair 10 hull. Oh, that's still 30 sovereigns. Well, fine. It's not just fully repaired, it gleams. Alright. So our hull is back up to full. We don't need to do that anymore. We can hire on crew. Currently we have 8 out of 10 crew, which is fine. We don't really need any more than that. Since our ambition is wealth, we can just straight up retire if we want. We can just end the game whenever we want here in New Winchester. And that would prompt us to make a new captain, but we don't really want to do that yet. Let's investigate this black box. Captain Whitlock left it to you in the hold of the Orpheon. Her will described it only as a black box, a description you consider to be an unhelpful understatement. It is a casket of black basalt, no longer than you are tall, unadorned, with a single small recess that contains a keyhole. The thing must weigh most of a ton. It stands upright in the corner of the hold where the crew have pushed it out of the way. Consider what to do with it. Try to remember when Captain Whitlock acquired the box. Yeah. When did she get this thing? Captain Whitlock had brought it on board just before your ill-fated expedition to the Blue Kingdom. It was empty then, you know, because you saw the lid and the box carried on board separately and assembled in the hold. It's not empty now. It is sealed and even heavier than before. But you left for the Blue Kingdom shortly after the box was delivered and made no stops on the way. So whatever it is inside the box now, Captain Whitlock found in the Blue Kingdom. Examine the box. There are no carvings or inscriptions on it. The join where the lid meets the body is too thin to admit even a knife blade. There are no holes by which light or air might find their way in. It is impossible to see inside without opening it, even if the keyhole has been engineered in such a way as to prevent peeking. The recess with the keyhole, though, as far as you can determine, that is a recent addition to the box. Stone has been drilled and chiseled away to create a space for a modern metal lock. We can just sell the box if we want. We don't we don't know what's in there. We can just sell it and we'll get some decent money. The higher our affiliations, we'll get a better price. And then there's some other stuff we can do with it, but we can't because we don't have certain items or the skills required. The last request of Captain Amelia Whitlock was for the box to be transported to a specific address in London. Alternatively, you could perhaps find someone willing to purchase it as a curiosity, and if you knew what was inside, you might be able to command a higher price. Alright, we'll leave the box for now. We do have an opportunity here, a fastidious inspector. Excuse me, Captain. A woman pushes through the crowds toward you. She is short and square-shouldered, in a neat black suit and polished shoes. She shows you the case of her pocket watch. It is embossed with the crown and hourglass of London's horological office, the body responsible for ensuring time is consistent across the empire. I'm hoping to book passage to Port Prosper, she says, slipping the watch away. I can, of course, pay. Pay sounds promising. Thank you. The locomotive I was on broke down following a boiler rupture. The chief engineer's fault, I suspect. A gentleman fonder of brandy than of diligence. Here, an initial sum to seal our bargain. Prosper lies to the east of New Winchester. Not that there is such a thing as north, south, east, or indeed west out here. Instead, London cartographers picked 4 of the brighter, more reliable stars visible from the Empress's new palace and named them north, east, south, and west. Londoners value familiarity. Alright, so we have a fastidious inspector on board, transporting them to Port Prosper. She gave us $50, and yeah. And you know what? That $50 could just go right into recruiting an incautious driver. I specialize in test driving, but I'm looking for something quieter. The driver indicates a crashed engine still smoking. Like that. Without the screaming. So if we pay him $20, he will join our crew. Officers, you can only have a certain amount of officers, but they'll actually increase your stats. So this guy will give us +6 iron, +2 hearts, and affiliation establishment by 1. So why not? Driver boards, eager to get started. I recently parted ways with the Windward Company, they explain. Personally, I think a crash a week isn't so bad. They disagreed. Oh well, live and learn. Fair enough. There is also the shops that we can go to. Right now we only have Wolsey Station unlocked. But there are several shops we can go to, like the New Winchester Bazaar. This will give us... Okay, so prospects are kind of like missions that we can get. And some of them are a lot harder to do than others, but I remember doing this one quite a bit. This one's pretty easy. Seeds for Magdalenes. So Magdalenes provides comfort and sympathy to the weary skyfarer. Its host will tell you any lie you need to hear. Some of those lies require flowers. The amenable host wants up to 3 sacks of verdant seeds and will pay 80 sovereigns for each. Magdalenes lies to the northeast of New Winchester. Let's do it. I think you can only... I can't remember how many prospects you can have. It might be able to take as many as you want, but I don't want to do that one right now, so we'll just leave that one. Is 6 iron a lot? Not really. Like, if we take a look here, these are the officers that we have. So our chief engineer is the incautious driver. So we have 25 iron as a base value, just as our character. So +6, we're up to 31, which again isn't a lot. It's decent, but it could definitely be a lot better. And like I was explaining before, since this is basically a legacy game, the more you play it, the more you build up your legacy, the more you can increase your stats over time. It's kind of intended to be that way. So our starting stuff is going to be a little underwhelming maybe, but it'll be enough for us to get by. Abraham's engineering here is all equipment for our locomotive. different weapons, upgrades, stuff like that. They're all quite expensive. We probably won't be buying too much of that stuff for a while. Victoria Market. So these are the two that we need the most: fuel and supplies. I'm gonna go ahead and buy some of each. I get 128 bucks. That'll bring me down to about half. Yeah. And then we've got the engine yard, which this is where we can actually buy different locomotives. Again, incredibly expensive. But eventually we'll get enough money that we'll be able to just buy straight up a new locomotive, which is pretty cool. You could do all of this as well in Sunless Sea, but the economy in Sunless Sea I felt was a lot harder to make money, and you burn through fuel and supplies a lot faster than you do in this game. And the thing that sucked about Sunless Sea is that even if you upgraded to a larger ship, that ship burned fuel faster than the smaller ship. So a lot of the times it wasn't even worth doing, even though you had more cargo capacity. It was a little dumb. But anyway, let's explore the city. The smoggy, clanking, singing, stamping, thronging, frantic heart of the Reach. An ever-expanding port of soot-smudged glass and bright steel spilling across a drifting, mist-wrapped archipelago. Its factories thunder, its engine sheds ring with hammers and hiss with steam. Locomotives chug into sidings for repair, or flare across the sky and away into the high wilderness. So we can go to a club called the Promise of Days, inquire about the Winchester War. How goes the war? The slow-burning war for the Reach forms the backdrop to daily life in New Winchester. Citizens wishing to keep up with developments in the war should turn to the New Gazette. It is famously the only newspaper worth reading in New Winchester, as well as the only paper that hasn't bankrupted itself. Its quality speaks for itself. So we can read about the progress of the war and check our reputation with the factions. Read about the current political situation here in the New Gazette. The Assembly runs New Winchester from Victory Hall and seeks to strengthen its hand in the Reach. London's proxy, the Windward Company, however, maintain a considerable presence in the Reach. Although New Winchester is still neutral ground, tensions are mounting within and without the port. We can search for our name, but they are more than likely not talking about us because we haven't done anything, so... let's go to the Promise of Days. Old pistons gleam on the walls. The shelves are crowded with mementos from across the sky. The clientele raise their voices to be heard above the comforting clamor of the adjacent engine yards. We may find helpful advice. Introduce yourself to the seasoned captains. They are always happy to offer words of advice. Sometimes many words. Let's introduce ourselves. Four are gathered at their usual table: the masked citizen, a libertine, polymath, and pioneer of the nocturnal artistic school; the bedeviled didact, a scholar haunted by his discoveries; the plucky baroness, explorer, collector, philatelist, and spatchcocker Meg, who hunts monsters. Of course, everything out here is jolly dangerous, says the baroness. Few risk the skies, so news of distant ports is valuable. Collect port reports from the places you visit and deliver them to Victory Hall or the company house. The more you turn in at once, the more they'll pay. Look for other opportunities on the way, advises the masked citizen. Passengers who want transport, rich men in need of bloody work, etc. Alright. So, they basically just kind of told us how to play the game. Learn about trade, how to find bargains, and prospect. I don't quite remember all the details, so I'm going to do this. The didact says, fiddling with his innumerable talismans. An essential topic. Meg slides you a stool, and the captains shuffle around to make room. The masked citizen buys you a drink of their own invention. It is violet and foggy. The plucky baroness gives you a brisk, encouraging grin. Ask away. Yeah, we'll ask about prospects, because I don't remember the mechanics of them. The masked citizen sips their drink. The biggest port in each region has a bazaar where captains do business. There you'll learn of what people at other ports are prepared to pay over the odds of a commodity. When you accept the commission for a prospect, it's yours. No other captain will pursue it. It's all fantastically civilized. Their smile is droll. You'll have to source the goods yourself, of course, says the bedeviled didact. Find a port that exports them. The client will want a certain amount. You can supply some or all of it. But if you provide all they need, they may furnish you with an additional reward. Yeah. Where can we buy goods cheaply? Spatchcocker Meg wipes beer foam from her lip. Nowhere this busy. Deals are snapped up too fast here. Visit the bazaars at quieter ports. Can find all sorts. Limited supply, mind. A bargaining hand. A bargain won't hang about forever, though, the Baroness confides, steadfastly ignoring Meg's manners. So don't hang about. If you space in your hold, snap them up. You can always sell them at major port for an adequate return. Alright. So that's kind of the basics of the game for buying and selling and kind of getting money going. But that's probably about all that we have to do in Wolsey Station. So I'm going to go ahead and double check my journal here. So we got to go to Port Prosper, which is east of New Winchester. And excuse me. We also have to go northwest of New Winchester, so basically opposite directions. We will go, let's aim for Port Prosper first of all. So, the thing about this game and Sunless Sea is that there are numerous locations throughout the world, and the locations themselves are always the same, but where they are on the map is always randomly generated. So if we look at our chart here, although this is the map of the Reach, by the way. The Reach, I think, is the biggest of 4 regions that we explore here. But so yeah, there's New Winchester. Although I think this is always the same. This kind of area around New Winchester. A little tutorial gauntlet. But the location of the other ports and locations of interest will change throughout the games that you play. So no 2 games are alike in that respect. I can't remember which faction this train belongs to, but he is enforcing the law. He is not somebody we need to worry about. Unless we get enough reputation with the opposing faction, in which case he will attack. What's all this then? Oh boy. Oh, this is bad. Let's get out of here. Oh. I'd have to lure him down to the other enemy. Go that way. We definitely should not be fighting an enemy like this at this point in the game. Take. Oh. Heat bar filled up. That's good. Yeah. Oh. There we go. So that was not great, but we defeated them. Took a decent amount of damage, but we can loot or search for survivors, but that's probably not going to happen. So let's loot. We don't really need more crew members anyway. A faintly luminescent cage. Light burns from within. A silver idol rests inside the cage. 4 wings extend from its hunched shoulders. Made from moonstone, your navigator says in a hushed voice, to amplify the light of the stars. Now we have a vision of the heavens. So, I guess if we open our hold. So, in our hold are items. Things like ammunition, supplies, fuel, etc. But throughout our adventures, we also get possessions.
I'm melting!
Nope. Thank you for following, Sean. That is also one of our new follower alerts, and there's a lot of them. There's a whole bunch of random ones, and they do seem to be working because that's not the default. So they're all voice lines from the game Majesty, which is an old favorite of mine. So thank you for following, and thank you for helping me test that out. But yes, so our possessions here. Obviously, we got our black box. We've got the fastidious inspector, and now we have a vision of the heavens. So as we go throughout the game, we'll collect a whole bunch of different possessions like that we can then potentially trade in for other things and unlock other story paths and use them in all kinds of different ways. Marauders prowl these dim groves in defiance of nearby New Winchester. Oh. The fastidious inspector approaches you in the galley. Captain, good day. I noticed your ship's clock had stopped. Perhaps you'd permit me to repair it. This is a little case of tools and a hopeful expression. Yeah, sure. She gives a grateful flicker of a smile and sets to work. Soon she has the back off the clock, and has spread tiny cogs across the galley table. Obscure horological tools gleam brassily among them. Everything has a place. I appreciate the opportunity to keep myself busy. Staring too long at the stars is harmful to the temperament. She's gonna fix our cloak. She has a round face, brown eyes, and short dark hair. She gives the impression of being perpetually busy. Compliment her skills. Thank you, she says, a small embarrassed silence. It's possible the inspector is pleased. It's rather hard to tell. Let's ask her about what she does. She sniffs. It is of fundamental importance that 10 o'clock on the 2nd of June in one corner of the Empire occurs at the same time as 10 o'clock on the 2nd of June in the opposite corner. How is the Empire to function if it can't agree what day it is? Unfortunately, the process is complicated by the fact that time is less reliable than it was. The hours trade has seen to that. So there's... The lore in this game is very deep and very complex, one of which is that time can be a little weird sometimes. So let's ask her about the hours trade. Oh, hours have more uses than that. We use them to increase the efficiency of work worlds, to speed journeys in distant regions, to resolve overcrowding in prisons. It does make my life more difficult when time knots and stretches like wool on the loom. More difficult, but more vital. Her Majesty seized a great trove of them when she assumed the throne of Hours, and now even more have been found in the Reach. Miners dig them from the ground. She looks momentarily wistful. I hope someday to retire with a modest pension of years myself, to prolong the better part of my retirement. Mining hours out of the ground. Alright. Thank you. Okay, so we're kind of heading in the right direction. Let's send our bat out to see if they can find something. So there's something out there. That's probably where we're headed. Havenwood. Not all of the named locations are places that you can actually stop at, like a port. I think. Stop here. A lot of places just have names that are kind of neat little points of interest. This way. You approach the memorial to the unknown rat. One by one, your crew remove their hats. We found a wonder. So wonders immediately lower terror when you draw near them, so long as you haven't visited too recently. Terror is the other stat that we have not talked about yet. As we've entered deeper and deeper into the high wilderness. Hey! Made a level. So as we've entered deeper into the high wilderness, more and more things will become more terrifying, and they are potentially more dangerous. So as we gain levels, as we explore new places, we get experience, we gain levels, so we become stronger. We then have a moment of reflection in which we can choose one of these things that we can then take. We can either choose to be scarred, that we had a spell in prison, an interlude in red and gold. I have no idea what that means. Or a scandal. All of them give a slight bonus to our stats, and they will also then become a possession of ours that we can use to in various stories. Frankly, I am a fan of the lizard because I have no idea what this means. Ah, you lost your mind once. They put you in a splendid hotel managed by a cheery gentleman who would determine when you could leave. How colorful the other guests were, how red the curtains, how gold the fittings, how secure the locks. Eventually you were allowed to leave, but was your recovery genuine? So we could say, yes, our recovery was genuine. We get +5 mirrors, +3 iron. Or we just learn to lie, in which case we get mirrors and veils. So I guess we're kind of going for like iron. So I wouldn't mind saying that, yes, we lost our mind, but, you know, we got better. Alright. So each level, you get a new one of those things, and when you gain a new level, you can actually, all of the ones that we had that we did not pick will be available. So even if it's, you know, there's 2 there that you really want to get, you can just pick the other one when you get another level. But there will be more of them as well, so it's always a tough choice deciding what you want to do. But, so now we've got 28 iron and 15 mirrors. Thank you, Great Rat. I do feel like we've gone a little bit far for the Port Prosper, but I could be wrong. Send my bat out again. See what we can see. Oh, something right ahead of us. Perfect. Oh. The Ramsgate is robust. Another abandoned locomotive. The wreck gleams with frost. Its windows are dark. Its engine silent. Perhaps something of value lies within. Ooh. So our hearts aren't high enough to give us a decent chance of success getting actually into this thing to loot it. So I'll probably just strip her for repairs. Yeah. Oh well. Goodbye. Now we are entering into the cold region. I'm pretty sure we may have passed Port Prosper. I'm gonna turn around. let's go up through here. It does kind of suck that I think that's a friendly train. He's patrolling. But it kind of sucks with having only New Winchester as the only port that we know of, because it means that if we need supplies and fuel, we've got to go all the way back to New Winchester. So I'm hoping that I can find Port Prosper fairly easily. I'll reach Marauder. I'm not that frightened of this guy. I can take him. Overheated. Another thing that this game improved a lot over Sunless was the combat. In Sunless, you were kind of stuck with your maneuverability. In this, you've got like the side-to-side dodges, which makes a huge difference in combat. Plus, I think there's more weapons in this one too. So, let's see what we can find. The crew of the Marauder lie dead in the corridor, killed not by your guns, but knives and small arms fire. The only survivor is the captain, locked in the brig with a bottle of brandy. Chalk eyes stare back from every wall. When he ran out of chalk, he began scraping them in with his fingernails. Little remains of them, but bloodied stumps. Seen this before, Captain, says a crew member, grasping your arm. Sky madness. Magdalens can treat it, if you can be bothered to take the poor sod. The high wilderness is cruel. This could easily be you one day. Yeah, let's do it. So the crew wrap the Skyman and captain in blankets, then secure them tightly with belts. It takes 4 to transport him safely to your locomotive. He might not be happy restrained, but it should keep him from harm until you get him to Magdalens. Magdalens lies to the northeast of New Winchester. With the captain secured, you have a moment to see whether there's anything of worth on his locomotive before abandoning it to the wilderness. So now we've got a Sky-madden captain. We have a Tale of Terror, another possession. And what else? Let's loot the hold. Oh, a clasp jewelry box. Inside, a sheaf of letters falls from a concealed compartment. The pages are rife with scandal. We now have a salon-stewed gossip. Alright. Okay. Let's see where this leads. The Fallows. I also do not think this is the correct direction. I hear explosions at the distance. So these are the two... Oh, where you're shooting there, buddy. These are the two factions. They are currently fighting each other. Ow! Jerks. Oh, a port. Oh, it's Magdalens. Perfect. But yeah, those are the two main factions. They will be fighting each other, and it's kind of, you know, you don't really want to get involved unless you're actually affiliated with them, because those guys will mess you up pretty bad. Alright, so we are now at the House of Small Comfort here at Magdalens, which is the closest thing many Skyfarers have to a home. It offers services to alleviate the strain of a life spent too close to the stars. So we can treat our terror here. So this is where our possessions come into play. Basically, we can use our possessions to then pay for things like this. So, request a treatment for guilt. We'll give up our salon stewed gossip, or give up our vision of the heavens. And there are then other things too, like savage secrets and uncanny specimens we haven't encountered yet. But our terror is pretty darn low, so we don't really need to worry about that right now. Let's go to the House of Small Comfort. The glass spires of Magdalene's pierce the clouds like swords. Shadowed figures can be seen moving through the gleaming corridors, their identities obscured by the hued glass. Crowds of skyfarers, ministry officials, and merchants mill about the forecourt in varying degrees of distress. All watch the clock set in the great clock tower, waiting for their appointed hour. Well, we got this guy. Let's deliver him. The nurses bring a stretcher to carry the Skyman captain from your train. He'll receive the care of Magdalene's finest, at least Magdalene's finest with a sense of charity, given that he has nothing on him to pay further ministrations. So we delivered him. We got a vision of the heavens. We have gotten rid of all of our terror, and we got 100 experience. Cool. The founder and master of ceremonies at Magdalene's. He has requested you by name. First things first, let's write a port report. Port reports are going to be probably the primary way that we get money. So, Magdalene's is abuzz with activity. Barely has the clock chimed, then an clamor goes up at the front desk, guests rushing to and from appointments. Lord Blank was seen in conversation with the amenable host. The East Wing was closed for general access all day. A certain distinguished admiral was seen with his second-in-command entering one of the chambers of regret. Several guests succumbed to an excess of sentimentality, were forcibly removed. So now we have a port report for Magdalene's, which we can then turn in to one of the factions back in New Winchester to get cash. But first, let's meet with the amenable host. An attendant escorts you through the dazzling violet corridors. The host's red door is always open. The attendant leaves you just as the clock begins to chime. The amenable host reclines on a couch of crushed velvet, a goblet of sparkling wine in his long fingers. Somewhere in the tower above him, the great clock ticks away. As a policy, the host's atrium is always open to guests. He's available to hear opinions, friendly criticisms, and suggestions. Today, he has a headache. Let's hear what he has to say. What does he want? What do you want from him? His voice is soft and sibilant, like butter melting in candlelight. A guest has become rather too attached to a particular attendant. He always requests that the same attendant appear in the exact same guise. The amenable host's lip curls in distaste. He reiterates the aim of Magdalene's, a place of healing and respite. It was not meant to feed obsession or self-indulgence, self-loathing. This guest brings sickness. I would have him purged. I have a dossier on our guest if you're interested in helping. An unwelcome truth. The amenable host reclines on a couch of crushed velvet. Oh, okay, we're back here. This is just a repeat. So, let's see this dossier. Let's see who this patient is. The amenable host smiles indulgently. I'm so glad you want to help. He produces a thin sliver of pages and passes them to you. I'd recommend taking on the role of one of our attendants. That way, you'll be playing the role of someone significant to him. The amenable host sighs, reaching for his goblet. He knows all of our attendants by voice now. Someone new is needed. Alright. Deal with the lachrymose guest. He stands on the threshold of the treatment chambers, his hands trembling. The attendants on duty have been informed about your involvement. How do we plan to deal with him? A treatment chamber has been emptied for you should you wish to adopt a guise from his past. Alternatively, he is standing right there. He does not seem to have noticed you, his eyes instead boring through the doors of the treatment rooms. Approach this directly. The disguises have caused this poor sod enough trouble. Disguise as his mother. or disguised as his lover. Let's do this directly. The lachrymose guest's eyes widen as you approach. Has there been a problem? You invite him to sit. Stiff brandies are ordered. You recount your own share of heartbreaks and tragedies, how you found yourself here, and you make clear that despite all that, you will be leaving. He nods slowly, and after a quick shake of your hand, walks away toward the station. He does not look back. Alright. Let's go and talk to the amenable host again. The lachrymose guest is gone. For better or worse, he will not be returning to Nightlands. The amenable host smiles beatifically. Of course, my staff will be pleased. It is a risk of our trade when our clients can no longer separate identity and illusion, but seldom pleasant. He sighs deeply, echoing around the chamber like a newly freed dove. It is a trap any of us could fall into. His face darkens briefly. Here, take this. He fishes around beneath his couch for one of his goblets. It'll fetch a pretty price. Take it with my thanks, and do visit us again. Alright. We've done him a significant favor, and we got $100. Treat our nightmares. Okay, so we don't have any nightmares yet. Haven't had any nightmares, so we're good there. But there are some shops here that we can get. Okay, so we do have a prospect for these sacks of verdant seeds here. They are 80 sovereigns each, which is rough. Bargains. Buy this nectar as a bargain. That is very expensive still. We don't really have a lot of money. For now, we need to make sure that we are fueled up and that we have supplies. And that's pretty much going to take all of our money, so... I'll leave a little bit of money just in case. So, that is the House of Small Comfort. I don't know if there's anything else here to do. Really? Okay. Alrighty. So that's Magdalene's. The other port is... Fort Prosper lies to the east of New Winchester. I mean, I guess it could still be in there. Could also be down there. I think I'm gonna head back toward the Unknown Rat. Or maybe I'll just... yeah, I'll push toward the edge of the map this way, just to see what's down there. Oh, that's a fish. It is a Canton Carry wildlife. It doesn't like us. Get back here. All other things. Canton Carry. Placated. The Canton Carry are lumbering, half-fossilized isopods that will attack anything they disapprove of. Given that they are very ancient and murderously grumpy, that means almost anything. The largest chunk of the Canton Carry still lives. They can be slow to die, stubbornness perhaps, or the sluggish journey of signals across their calcified nerves. We can listen to its last complaint. We can prize precious stones from its carapace. With a 67% chance. That's not bad. That'll give us money. We can leave it untouched, or if we get canning equipment, or if we have butchery, we can actually extract supplies out of these things too. But for now, if we listen to him, we'll gain experience, a sky story, and hear tales of the Canton Carry, or money. Let's listen to what it has to say. Its last sound is a prolonged grunt, like a heavy snorer on the brink of waking. A crewman tells a tale of his prior commission. I served on the Nibelung, a mining engine out of Lustrum. We were cracking sky rocks, digging out ours, but the seventh rock didn't hold ours. It held one of those. He indicates the Canton Carry. Devil battered halfway through the hull before we got away. Alright. We got some experience, and we now have a sky story in your possession. Go. You know what? Let's go this way. We'll loop around if we can. I hope we can. Oh. Okay, he just wants to leave me. I don't want to waste the fuel and supplies fighting him, so we'll just get out of here. Miners dug too deep into this world, but it's disturbing and disgruntlement campaign breed. Ooh, I think I know where I am, and that's not good. A wreck gleams with frost, its windows are dark, its engine silenced. 20% chance to get through. Kinda sucks. Stripper for repairs. I'm feeling lucky. Yes! The driver pulls your locomotive alongside the wreck, close enough for you to leap from one to the other. The floor of the bridge is carpeted with glass fragments. It shines like stars in your lamplight, and tinkles like bells when your boots brush it. A sky chest, nailed to the floor at the back of the bridge, yields to your efforts. A solid crate, stamped and carefully sealed. It's heavy as a dead man's weight. A gunner sniffs just before the lid is wrenched open. Gunpowder, they assert before assuming responsibility for the opening. Once the lid has been carefully prized off, the case's gleaming arsenal of ammunition and sealed powders and callous weaponry is laid bare. This will fetch a handsome price. The heavens do not lack for murderers. We got a carefully packed crate of munitions. So this is a horror that we haven't discovered yet. I don't really want to go too close to it because there's a bunch of those things around here. Oh wait, there's a friend. HML Fool's Errand. Oh, jeez. Ow, that hurt. Let's get out of here. Oh no. Alright, so that wasn't what I thought it was. I don't think I can do anything with this. I do not have a mining drill, so I can't do anything with this rock yet. Unfortunately. Back. Find me something good. Oh boy, I wonder, is that Port Prosper? Well. Wait. Well, it's risky, but I'm gonna go for it. past these creatures. Gray witnesses. Don't like the sound of that. I think I gotta go this way. That's the worst part about this game, is that if you don't know where to go and you end up picking the wrong direction, it can be quite a negative thing. I don't know what that sound is, but I don't like it. Oh. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Distant street through the tangled undergrowth. What haunts this far-flung past? That thing does. I don't want any part of that. Let's get out of here. Oh. I can't do anything with these. Stupid bat. Could have led me astray. Oh, that's a port. That might be where we need to be. Where we need to be. That's a dead end. I can still hear something like riding in the distance, and I don't like it. Oh, this is another thing. Refineries, distant searchlights here in the sky. Port Prosper. We found it. Get in here. Yeah, Queen's Cross Station. Crammed at the feet of a hulking crag, Port Prosper is Little London, divided into an affluent West End and an impecunious East. Queen's Cross is a busy station, crowded with engines that have arrived through the nearby transit relay from Albion. Alright, so there's a whole bunch of new stuff for us to do here. First of all, we came here to deliver the fastidious inspector, so off she goes. Let's actually just wait. Let's... what do we got here? Where... I don't know if I can actually talk to her at will. Either way. Accept our payment. Hold is almost full. Thank you, Captain. Here's the balance of our agreement, and as promised, a requisition order for fuel and supplies. She casts another glance at the incomplete clock tower. Given the apparent state of construction, I'd recommend you visit the work site. There may be an opportunity there. And thank you for the pleasant conversation, Captain. The sky can be a lonely place, and you enlivened it. I've included a small additional sum in your remuneration as a token for my gratitude. Alright, so we completed her little quest. She is off on her way. We got 150 bucks, 3 supplies and 3 fuel, which is great, because that means we don't need to resupply here. We don't need to spend any more money. So we go to the clock tower. They plan to call it the Albert Clock in memory of the departed Prince Consort, but there's a way to go yet. The roof isn't finished, and the clock neither ticks nor bongs. You can see the fastidious inspector you can see the fastidious inspector up among the workings with a spanner and a can of oil, showing the workmen how it's done. What do you need? Bronzewood, the foreman wheezes bluntly. One consignment. They sell it at Trader's Wood and Polmere's and Plenty's, I hear. And a gourd of chorister nectar, too. This bunch of work-shy ingrates need some constant shouting at. My voice has been giving up the ghost. Some nectar should have me bellowing again like a champion. Carillon's your best bet there, or Titania, the flower town. We'll pay, like. Alright, so, yeah, so basically we need to find Bronzewood and a gourd of chorister nectar, which they were actually selling that at Magdalene's. If we could have afforded it. Well, we have other business. Port Prosper. Its narrow streets huddle in a shadow of a great crag. Banners display the stony features of her renewed majesty. Wealthy West Enders strut by, exchanging polite greetings and veiled gossip, while sooty East End workers file to the hour refining factory. Peeling posters promise fresh, wholesome lives in the reach to new arrivals, but most of the posters are years old. More newcomers arrive at Port Prosper than ever leave it. Port report. The factories continue to belch out smoke, while over the bridge, hopeful crowds gather outside the Admiral Nelson. Lovers can be seen strolling arm in arm along the promenade, at a respectable distance from their chaperones. There was a brief protest outside the Windward Company factory, swiftly quelled. The scones at the Nelson were as good as ever, though the piquancy of the jam was less than might be desired. We got a port report for Port Prosper. Port Prosper port report. Ugh. Attend a parade. It is apparently the Feast of the Red Saint. Heck yes. Gaudy banners fly over the painted rooftops of Port Prosper. The smog of the East End is hidden away by giant posters displaying dragons in varying degrees of vivisection. The cramped streets are clogged with people. Wealthy West Enders promenade about the amusements, while impoverished East Enders work the stalls and huddle by the chestnut fires for warmth. A painted dragon pursued by knights is chased through the crowds to a chorus of "Ho, the riding!" Alright, we want to mingle with the West Enders or mingle with the East Enders, or just fraternize with everybody. We're not limited by the rigid social structures of Port Prosper, though neither are they beloved for it. Yeah, I'm an equal opportunist. Fraternize with everybody. You are treated as a curiosity and viewed from all sides with suspicion. Still, you find yourself in a conversation with an elderly colonel who has retired to Port Prosper. A bulwark of sanity, he calls it. A line in the sand against all the stuff out there. He introduces you to one of the riders in the procession, who takes you on a tour of the carnival. You converse with the chestnut sellers and flower arrangers, drink in the outdoor pubs, and dance with several of the vaudeville players. At the end of the day, you've learnt many names and faces, and even acquired a few calling cards. We are tolerated by the prosperous West Enders, and also by the impoverished East Enders. Snow swirls around Port Prosper and settles on Mole's table. Fur-coated West Enders dash through the drifts. Join the Lamas Fair, a celebration of the bounty and fortune of Port Prosper. There's an elderly lady whispers surreptitiously, likely to be a tombola. Yeah, let's join the fair. Ooh. All the sights and sounds of a day in the fair in London. Genuine rubbery lumps sold by the cartful. Icons of mayors passed from Dick Whittington to Sinning Jetty, all line the streets. A Ferris wheel offers paying customers the chance to survey the heights of Port Prosper. Side stalls speckle the side streets, manned by gamblers and mountebanks. The main streets offer popular games and diversions, watched over by a number of burly guards from the factories. We don't have much for hearts, so I'm probably going to go to the side stalls. Still only 45% chance of success, but we don't really have anything else we can do. Beware the inadvisably big dog. Something large and immodestly fluffy this way comes. People hasten to get out of the way. Perhaps you should stop it. Oh, if I had a higher chance of success, I would do that, because we might be able to get a dog. But we have a better chance of success on this one, so... Oh. Delicious rubbery lumps. A feast for most of the senses at once. Carnival barkers invite you into this new excitement or another. A fun house built like the HML Parsifal. A haunted house built from frontier homesteading. A game of knife and candle with real knives. Unfortunately, one of the other competitors is a prominent society lady, incognito. You both avert your eyes and do your level best to avoid mentioning your mutual acquaintance, but the damage is done. I've lost 1 westward reputation. I now have 0. A gunshot in the night, pistols in the morning. The West Enders close ranks. Alright, what else do we got here? So the clock tower, we've been there already. Let's ask about the Albion Transit Relay. It lies in a cul-de-sac close to Port Prosper Dock. There, locomotives can secure passage to the far-off territories of Albion, where London lie. Well, let's inquire. A garrulously captain is delighted to have an excuse to talk. I'm happy to help, Captain. Happy to help. They point down the docks. There you are. Keep going past the port. You can't miss it. If you've good eyes, you might even be able to see it from here. Passage ain't free, mind. You can travel first class if you have a ministry stamp permit, or you can bring a couple of barrels of hours to travel second class. An incognito princess perched atop a mountain of luggage is a radiant young woman. Perched atop a mountain of luggage is a radiant young woman. She's an officer dressed in what an actor would wear in a fantastical romance. A tiara rests on her brow. A steady stream of commoners comes to pay homage, bowing and curtsying enthusiastically. Starlings circle in dense swarms above her, refugees from old London, and a common sight, although not in such numbers. She ignores everything and hands you papers so pristine that they can only be forged. Oof, for 100 sovereigns we can take her on. She'll increase our mirrors by 6, hearts by 2, and affiliation boheme by 1. Is that worth 100 sovereigns? Oof, don't know. Maybe not. The parsimonious chairman's offices. The offices of the Windward Company on Port Prosper are elegantly appointed, if antiquated. Paintings of old London adorn the walls. The parsimonious chairman has worked for ruthless captains. He sits behind his imported mahogany desk, a decanter of brandy at his left hand, and a series of neatly stacked reports at his right. A fire has been lit in the cavernous hearth. It is too warm. He pours brandy into 2 glasses and produces a ruler to measure the amounts. To business, he smiles, revealing the extensive damage to his teeth. I was a pugilist back in London, a young man's game. He stands at the window, watching the starlight bathe the sloping streets of Prosper. This place exists because of constant work. From the politicians who planned it, to the pioneers who built it, to the soldiers who even today defend it from the Tacketies. We have need of more such work. Bring me nameplates from Tackety engines. We keep lists. You'll be rewarded. So the Tacketies are one of the factions that I was talking about, the trains that are out in the wild. I think they are the yellow ones. But of course, if we bring nameplates from Tackety engines, that means we have to blow them up. And I don't really want to deal with that right now. He sighs, as though used to disappointment. He allows you to finish your brandy before ringing a little bell. The secretary escorts you out. My door, the chairman says as you leave, is always open. Alright. Let's see who we got for settlers. So, transport a settler. Where are you going? I'd appreciate it if you took me to Trader's Wood. I'm in the mood for a spot of sport. His handshake is firm to the port of rudeness. He leans in close. My time is precious, you understand. I'd appreciate it if you got me there as quick as you can. You shan't go unrewarded for the effort. Oh. Trader's Wood. I don't know where Trader's Wood is. Delivery a settler. Uh-oh. I don't know where Trader's Wood is. I know this guy told me about Trader's Wood, but I don't know if he told me where assignment, sell it at Traders Wood for Walmart plumbings. No, he didn't. Ugh. Oh well, let's go to the bazaar. Paint of stained glass. Gang of grubby urchins are selling stained glass. When a passing contramonger asks where they got the glass, the sooty vagabond snaps, "Never you mind," and throws his coat over the baleful glass angel adorning the pane they had on display. We already have a full hold, unfortunately, so we are probably going to have to sell some stuff. Let's sell fuel. Fuel is cheaper than supplies, so it's easier to resupply when we need to. We could buy some hours if we wanted to, but we don't really need. Again, we've already got a full hold. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy me a princess. Here's $100. Get on board, milady. I am a humble first officer looking for... What's the word? When commoners do things for coins, she asks. Work, that's it. She beams at you, delighted, as innocent as a Gatling gun. Curious turn of phrase. She steps aboard. Commoner calmly takes a spoon from his pocket and scoops out his eyes. After such radiance, all else is tawdry, he says between screams. It seems she has already forgotten about her signing on money. Well, that was horrifying. Let's move on. Is there anything else to... No, there's not really much else going on in Port Conway. Oh. Alright. So, we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Fastidious Inspector is completed. So we've got to go to Trader's Wood for sure. Purchase 3 sacks of verdant seeds from the bazaar at Port Avon. Lies to the west-northwest. So we'd have to go back to New Winchester to go that direction. That is the box, and then wealth is our ambition. So Trader's Wood is kind of the big question mark. The question is, where is it? We're pretty full up on supplies, so I think I might take a detour southward here and then up back to New Winchester, and we'll see what we can see. Oh, but we gained a level. So yes, are we the baddies? Not really. We could be, I suppose. We do have a certain degree of villainy here for our, I guess those are our veils, but we do have an affiliate with villainy due to our backstory that we chose. So we could be, but not necessarily. So as you can see, yeah, we gained another level. We've still got these three, a facet that we did not pick from the last round, but we've also got these other three. We have a mentor, a lost love, or worse things happen at Z. The sea does not forgive. It did not forgive you. The Untersee demands a price from all who sail her. What did they demand from you? A year from your life or your home? So the background that we chose is that we were a former Z captain, which is basically who we would have been playing in Sunless Sea. Didn't one of the crew gouge out someone's eyes? I think that was just a random commoner who did that. He is not important to our crew. A mentor. What would that give us? More villainy affiliation, which is our association among thieves, outcasts, and pirates. I do definitely want to pick something that gives us more hearts, because we seem to be running into a lot of skill challenges that require hearts, and we don't have very many. A lost love. I do kind of like a mentor because that also gives us more villainy affiliation. We've already got one, so that would bring us up to two, which could have implications later in the game. Plus, that gives us more iron, which is always good to have. So yeah, for a time, you enjoyed a favor and protection of a mentor, someone who saw your potential and decided to nurture it, who took you under their wing. A blind bruiser, his attempts to distance himself from his larcenous past were a mixed success. His guests were scarred and rough-spoken and told bloody tales of smuggling and thief oaths and nameless murders. Sounds good. Okay, let's go. I think if we went the other way, we would find the gate. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. Get it marked on the map anyway. Excuse me. There are basically warp gates that take you to other regions, and this is one of them. The Albion Transit Relay. Yeah. We can't get through there right now, though. We need to either get the proper paperwork or bribe our way through. And I'm pretty sure the last time I played this game, I'm pretty sure I went to Albion and I managed to find London, but it was like by the skin of my teeth. It can be a little difficult to explore that region. It is very large. So those are the two factors. I'm pretty sure those are the tactics in like the bronze color locomotives. It can be a little difficult to tell what is terrain and what you can actually like go under. I've seen that before, so I knew I'd be able to get under that, but sometimes it's a bit of a crapshoot. Oh, I forgot to repair. I don't know if I had an opportunity to. Let's talk to our officers. Let's talk to our chief engineer. The driver has no tolerance for uneventful voyages. When not on duty, they stare through the stained glass windows of willing excitement to ride on in a wave of disaster. When they take the wheel, the rest of the crew grip the nearest available supports and whisper quiet prayers to various god. He's running an illicit poker game in the hold. Let's play. You enter the hold and find the game well underway. The driver sits cross-legged in front of a pile of freshly won sovereigns and 3 newly impoverished members of the crew. A stoker angrily throws an expensive-looking watch into the pile of winnings and departs in a fury. The driver looks up. Captain, care to make a wager? Oof. The driver deals the cards between the players. The cook and a crewman whose name you can't place at the moment watch each other with barely disguised suspicion. Behind you, a small crowd gathers to see the captain's coin. Go big or go home. Ooh, wow. 15% chance success. You spread your cards out. The driver plays with an instinct rather than strategy, betting everything on what turns out to be a terrible hand. Your luck is stronger. The entire royal succession stares up from the table. The other competitors can only grumble as you claim the pot. I hear you used to be a test driver, says the quartermaster. The driver nods. You'd never have thought it. As a child, I loved my trains. Very ordered. A safe little space where they could go round and round and nothing could go wrong. It was only after the crash that I realized I needed more. I suppose surviving that taught me there was more to living than simply being alive. Another round. Let's step away. The remaining crew circle around the circle relax as you stand to leave. The driver shuffles the cards, ready to begin the next round. We'll let them continue. It's harmless enough. The driver nods to you, idly scratching an ear. Just for a moment, you spot something green winding around their finger. We learn more. Let's see. A second, let's listen to the driver's suggestion. Is there something they want? The driver blinks. Can't keep anything from you, I see. I've been feeling a bit on edge. Would like to make myself useful if I can. There's races at the Royal Society. Maybe we could go there, and you could drop me off for a bit. I could make us both a bit of money. They take out a coin and flip it in the air. Comes down on heads. Just thought anyway. The driver will join the Rochester Club to take part in races and generate winnings for you while on secondment. Huh. Okay. Converse with the incautious driver. What? Oh, yes. The driver scratches again. It's nothing. Just a little earache, I'm sure. Comes and goes. Their knee trembles with the frustration of being pulled away from the wheel for even this short conversation. See? All fine now. I recommend seeing a doctor. Order a visit to a doctor, or just leave it. I'll recommend you see a doctor. Not necessary, the driver protests, scratching at their ear with renewed force. A look of pain flashes over their face for a moment. Perhaps, my family knows of a specialist in New Winchester. I think Father owns the building. I think I can call in a favor. Alright, let's leave there with the incautious driver. Let's talk to this princess, though. From the tiara-crested brow downwards, there is nothing about the incognito princess that is not incandescent. She is like the sun, and about as dangerous to anything in the vicinity. Wherever the princess goes, she looks around with a surplus of curiosity and a complete lack of care. While she seems incapable of discerning between the two, the incognito princess seems intrigued by any mention of daring-do and abyssal horror. So because we have a Sky story and a tale of terror, and we have not learned of the incognito princess, we can talk to her. The truth revealed. Thrilled by your tales, the princess invites you to her quarters. I have a secret, she says, removing her tiara before donning a second, more expensive tiara. I am Queen Victoria's daughter, says. I trust your discretion. It is a considerable ask. This must be the captivating princess, the daughter of Victoria who dwells in a miasma of rumors and excess, ranging from red honey to cannibalism. A half-asphyxiated starling has somehow found its way on board. It flies to her hand. She pets it gently. One is traveling to broaden one's mind before one takes on a new role. It would be a delight to meet with the engineers who keep the eternal ball of pertinence tick-tocking away. She smiles. You find yourself outside. So, basically, we traded in our Tale of Terror and our Sky story in order to unlock that dialogue. So we no longer have those, which, I mean, isn't the biggest deal. But we'll be able to get those back and get more of them. And yeah, that's kind of the basic way that things work. So let's see. I'll keep exploring just a little bit longer, see if we can find somewhere to call it for the evening. And hope that we don't get destroyed by something terrible. Some sort of eldritch abomination. I never really mentioned it before, but the Sunless games are very heavy into the eldritch stuff. Others said illness is all in the mind. Should fit right in here. Oh, what's this? Thing. The Garden of Insatiable Roses. Huh, I've never seen this place before. Caroline. Center. This peaceful Carmine institution was founded by devils from London and dedicated to the betterment of the soul. Baltheridge's A Tour of Heaven describes it as a cross between a spa, a sanatorium, and purgatory. She commends its bracing airs. Let's see here. Go to the foyer. Greystone, the color of a monastery, attending devils and devilisses dressed in uniform, and an incoming parade of the sick, the friendless, the dying, and those who think their lives would be better off If only they were somewhat something else. This is Carillon, where souls are refined into something more impressive. We can go and speak to the presiding deviless. So, when they talk about devils in this game, that is not like a euphemism. They literally talk about devils, because in the Fallen London universe, because London was pulled underground, it found itself closer to hell. So devils, literal devils, came and started hanging out in London. So there, when it talks about devils, they mean devils. So first things first, write a port report. We take some notes on a pilgrim's journey through Carillon. The first port of call is the beehive-shaped office in the center, or more accurately, the long cube leading into it. From there, the infernal attendants direct them to one of Carillon's 7 gardens to undergo penances. A little on the nose. They certainly look penitent by the time they emerge. Presumably their souls are much improved. Not that you can tell. Let's go speak to the presiding deviless. She works in an office shaped like a beehive, a stone and wickerwork building that stands all alone in the middle of Carillon's central courtyard. She conducts intake interviews with new patients, one by one. After a long time in line, you reach her at last. Greetings, Captain. How may we stretch, strain, purify, and strengthen you now that you've come to Carillon? Oh, goodness. Her apron is starched, her dress pinstriped. There's a stack of patient files on her desk, color-coded. The corners of her mouth say she knows something to your disadvantage. What is that? A jumble of undistinguished souls. Oh my goodness. Wow, if we get a whole bunch of crap, we can do something quite special, but that is a tall order. Jeez. Ask her about Carillon. We do whatever is necessary to reclaim unsatisfactory souls, she says. She sits back in her chair, and you can imagine her making just such a pitch to the princes of hells. For humans, primarily, though we do attend to other creatures elsewhere on the Great Chain, they come to us with souls that are stained, disused, and in every kind of sordid condition, and we make them acceptable again. Most of those who come to us are volunteers. The rest are beyond the position of being able to volunteer, consigned to Carillon by their families or employers. Okay. And after a stay at Carillon, what then? Most people go home again, she says. Some find that they are weary of their souls and pass them on to us. We operate on that slender profit and on what we can get from donations, or from sales of penance and forgiveness. She looks at the blank page before her. But what about you? You look sturdy enough to make full use of our services. Are you afraid of needles? What is your view of worms? Which do you fear more, venoms or poisons? It takes down a page or two on all your least favorite things. Ugh. She's prepared to offer us a deal. Listen, she says, you are free to make use of Carillon. Take a penance or two. Alter your soul. I think you'll find our services very imaginative. There is another matter I hope you will look into. A devil in rose-colored gloves. He used to supervise the Gaslight Terrace. He was removed from that position, but I fear he may still not be entirely aligned with the objectives of Carillon. If you find out anything about him, anything to his disadvantage, she looks grim, bring me the evidence, and I will reward you. We're an initiate of Carillon. Come back if you have any other questions, says the Deviless. She's already opened the next file on her desk. Alright, so we got something else going on now. The initiate of Carillon. Devil in the Gaslight Terrace. I think... Oh, there we go. Travel around Carillon. Well, let's go to the Gaslight Terrace. Your companions are a lady in a buttoned cloak and a young male student. They talk amongst themselves about the seasonable warmth and about how the yellowish glow of the lamps does not show blue silk to best effect. Their words are commonplace, their hands are folded and gloved, their opinions supplied by a respectable gazette. You have almost forgotten them, even while you're still walking together. The path descends by shallow steps to a broad terrace, as crowded as an imperial exhibition. Gaslight lampposts are scattered irregularly across the flagstone terrace. Between them are stations, each containing a patient receiving treatment. The supervising devils tend to these stations, stopping first here and there, and then there, like bees at flowers. Let's approach the spineless curate. A curate has been shackled into an ordinary pillory. Let's meet him. I've seen something in this light. It's hard not to see things. Devilish orderly jabs the curate with a needle. At the sight of the jab, the curate's skin goes lavender. I'm being treated for not believing in God. I've tried everything. Prayer, fasting, long weekends with a professional saint. None of it worked. My sermons were suffering. My bishop complained. And has it helped? I have dreams of snakes and angels, he says. It hasn't made me a mystic. I don't think the devils are real either. Just men with funny eyes, aren't they? The devilish orderly smiles with extra teeth. Alright, so we are not really able to pay his price or even an alternate currency, so we'll leave him alone for now. We might be able to get a Penance of Enlightenment, but only 25% chance of success. Vision, imagination, the ability to see beyond the nearest convention. That's what the devils are trying to evoke here. Let's do it. Oh. An unemployed butler used to drink to excess, but without taking any pleasure in it. Until he overcomes these flaws, he is receiving a lecture in the portraiture traditions of rubbery men. As for your punishment, it does not bear sparking of. You don't have the stamina to wait it out. We gain 5 terror. Oof. Not that bad. It could have been a lot worse. We'll go back to the center of Carolyn. Let's see. Try to enter the Bell Garden, visit the Checkerboard Garden, visit the Stunted Grove. Alright, so there is actually... Ooh, get in here, because we have flickering. Alright, so there's actually a lot to do in Carolyn here. But unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to call that for this evening. So, that was the first look here at Sunless Skies, a game that I enjoy quite a bit. It's a pretty neat little game once you get into it. And again, the randomness of it, it's like, I've never seen Carolyn before. This is the first time I've ever seen Carolyn as a port here. In the other games I played, it must have been in a random location far away that I never got to see it. So it's cool because you always kind of run into new things, and the stories unfold differently depending on what kind of skills you have and what items you collect, and it's neat. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. And we will be back next week. Next Sunday, I will be back to continue this story because I suspect this is going to be going on for quite some time. This is a very long-form game that benefits from playing it over a long period of time, so that will be next week. But until then, there's a bunch of stuff going on. B-Drops should be starting their art soup stream right about now, so I'm probably going to raid them, and there's a few of these people here involved, so there's that going on right now. Tomorrow evening, Action Shakespeare will be streaming. I don't know, actually. I haven't checked her poll, so I don't know what's winning in her poll, but she will be streaming some sort of miscellaneous game tomorrow, as well as Words will be streaming the end of Remember Me, I believe. So definitely check those out, and then I'll be back on Tuesday with either Warhammer, if it's working, or something else entirely. It might be kind of something special, so I will let people know on Twitter if you want to follow along. And B-Drops, I know, is also streaming Tuesdays. I don't know what exactly they'll be streaming. I know they have been playing Spirit Hunter, so check that out if they aren't finished that. And if they are, then it'll be something new. So yeah, it's all worth checking out. Head over to everybody's pages, check their schedules, see what's going on. There's always stuff going on pretty much every day of the week now, so definitely check that out. And yeah, thank you all for watching, for joining me here, and that is gonna be it for Sunless Skies. We're gonna raid B drops, and yeah, we'll see you later. I guess if we're gonna raid B drops, let them know that tell them that we've seen the eyes of the devil. We've seen the devils in Carolyn, and we are friends with them. Good night.